Good morning, people of Patreon. How are you doing? I am here in this little room. I was going to do this in my bathroom, and then I was like, why do in there? What I can do sitting down in my little chair in front of my bookshelf, because honestly, this is going to be a really quick um, intro, just because I want to read Bride, and I don't necessarily trust the Spookopoly board to let me do that. And so I am going to do it right now. It is Monday. I think that before we do reading sprints at 5 o'clock, I can get this book read. I think I can do it. I have faith in myself. I need to make a little library run to return some books like The Golden Gate, which is apparently due back tomorrow. I'm also not entirely sure. The library is open today. I say like The Golden Gate, but I am going to read that. I'm just going to read the Kindle version that I got from, I think technically LA Library, because it was a skip the line loan. So I do only have it for 7 days, but the goal is to read The Golden Gate with you guys tonight, which I guess I could do my next roll tonight as well. Or I could save the roll and do the roll tomorrow, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Other than, tomorrow I'm listening to Rouge. That's the goal for tomorrow. So maybe I can do my little spinny spin tonight, and maybe Rouge will fit into it. But this is just me popping in to say, good morning. Hopefully you guys are having a nice start to your work week. This book is not out until like February, which does feel a little crazy to me. Now, to be fair, Allie Hazelwood does have a YA coming out in November, The Check-In Mate, which is her best book, 5 stars. So I understand like not dropping another book in this month, and she already had Love Theoretically, which came out over the summer. So she is like booked and busy, which is a thing that I was dragging Ashley Winstead for. I was dragging Ashley Winstead because I don't really feel like she's doing anything. And she's like going back and forth and dabbling in these little like thrillery moments that aren't really doing anything. And then these romances that aren't really romances. At least Allie is sticking to a lane. So I don't know, call me what is what I'm looking for, a hypocrite. But I do think that Allie is at least like getting better over time in a way that Miss Winstead is not. If you guys don't believe me, Midnight is the Darkest Hour is the Literally Dead book club pick for next month. It's the last Literally Dead. I tried to warn them to not end the note on that, but if you are a fan of Twilight and you would like another literary attempt to analyze that precious text, Midnight is the Darkest Hour is for you. Do I think that The Great Circle did it better? Absolutely. But you know what? These people don't ask me, okay? They just don't. But I'm going to go, and I will see you guys when I have my first update about Bride. And if I wind up picking up anything at the library, I'll let you guys know about that as well. Hello again. So I have been to the library. I did grab some things, but I'm probably going to save that for tomorrow's video. Partially because if this is going to be a public video, then I don't think I need the library haul, but also it'll give me something to do for tomorrow's video, which might be going up late. Anyway, I am 36% into Bride by Allie Hazelwood, and I gave a little Instagram update just because I announced on Instagram that I wanted to read these books like a couple weeks ago, and even though I'm not super active on Instagram, I wanted the people to know that I had actually started the books now. And so what I'm loving about this book is there's a fucking plot. Now y'all know that I am always like attempting to read romance books. Like I want to, it is the part of me that just loves to fuck around and find out. It's a part of me that likes to be in the know and be into what is popular, what the girls are talking about. Part of BookTube for me is being part of conversations. And so obviously conversations require you to read things like maybe you weren't super interested in before, but like the community is reading them. So you got to know. And that's how my Allie Hazelwood obsession started. And it's why I generally pick up most of the romance that I do, just because romance is a popular genre. And I like to be where the popular girls are. I'm just that person. I'm sorry. But my main problem with a lot of romance, or not a lot of romance, but some of the times where I'm finding a romance is particularly lacking for me individually, is I find that there's just like not anything happening externally for what is essentially like a very internal story about these two people coming together, finding each other. Like that can get kind of like boring. And so I do like when characters have things outside of the romance that they are dealing with, whether it be like family dynamics, a work relationship, like whatever. So in Love Theoretically, I really enjoyed that book because we had our homegirl trying to find a job. And in Bride, it is it is a missing person investigation, which I was not anticipating. I was not anticipating. Maybe the what does the synopsis of this book say? Maybe I'm stupid. Now did I read the synopsis? Yes. Did I care what the synopsis said? Not really. But let's read it together. All I remember was it was supposed to be an arranged marriage, and that's what I took away from it. But the synopsis for Allie Hazelwood's Bride reads: a dangerous alliance between a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf becomes a love deep enough to sink your teeth into in this new paranormal romance from Allie Hazelwood. Misery Lark, the only daughter of the most powerful vampire councilman of the Southwest, is an outcast again. Her days of living in anonymity among the humans are over, and she has been called upon to host a storekeeping alliance. Wares are ruthless and unpredictable. First thing, I do hate that they call themselves wares, which is weird because then like they talk about how they're just like they don't transform, they shift. So I feel like we just call them shifters, but I'm sure that somebody has shifters trademarked or whatever, and like wares is like the public domain. But anyway, unpredictable in their alpha, Lo Moreland is no exception. He rules his pack with absolute authority. I also don't like that the synopsis gives you the impression this is going to be dual perspective. I find that when a romance novel gives you this is the female main character and this is the male main character, those are books that are dual perspective, and this is a single perspective romance, which usually I find lacking. But to be fair, I don't really think that Lo Moreland has a lot going on. One second, my computer is about to die. Okay. Crisis averted. Only the accounts on feelings, clear for any tracks Misery at early movement. He didn't trust her, if only knew how right he was. Because Misery has her own reasons to get rid of this marriage, reasons that have nothing to do with politics or alliances and everything to do with the only thing she ever cared about, she's willing to do whatever it takes. Okay, so it's hinted at in the synopsis, but what we have here is a missing persons case. So, in the world of Bride, you have vampires, you have werewolves, you have humans. And it seems that this is like a global situation, but we are strictly in the Southwest United States. I say United States, I don't really know if it really functions the same way. Just the way that things are described, I don't know. It's like roughly our world. I mean, it definitely takes place on our Earth with our same names for things, but it's the Southwest. I'm assuming it's like some weird map that maybe the final copy of this book will have. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter to me personally, but we're in America. We're in the Southwest. We got humans. We got werewolves. We got vampires. Historically, the vampires and the humans have been aligned, at least in the Southwest part of the world, or at least in the Southwest United States, because the vampires and the humans have an agreement. Vampires, there's not too many of them. There's obviously a fuck ton of humans, billions of people on the planet. They outnumber the werewolves. They're trying to be strategic. In our situation, the current governor is being replaced by somebody who does not seem super friendly with the vampires. And so Misery, her father's on the council, the people who have like all the power. And so he's trying to make strategic decisions in order to like not get fucked over. And historically, the vampires' relationship with the humans have meant that the werewolves won't attack the vampires because obviously if the humans are on the side of the vampires, there's more humans than both werewolves and vampires. And so just like sheer numbers, they would take on the werewolves. But because there's going to be a new governor and the vampires might lose this strategic alliance, her father and this new werewolf, not new werewolf, but this new alpha, Lo, have come to an arrangement where they're going to attempt to make a peace treaty themselves and have a system where they don't really need to rely on the humans to keep the peace, and they will just go through with this marriage. Now, they've had a couple of marriages in the past, and some of those were successful. Most of those were successful, and it did bring peace between these two factions. But the most recent attempt at this was like a bloodbath, and so they've not really done this. But like I said, new governor, new political situation, they're doing what they got to do. Misery, as is alluded to in the synopsis, is willing to go through with this marriage because she thinks that her bestie, Serena, is involved with werewolves some kind of way. Now, as part of the alliance between the werewolves and the humans, they have historically exchanged a vampire child and a human child to live in their respective, territories or whatever in order to, again, strengthen their alliance and keep the peace. And it was during this process that Misery, as a child, was sent to live with the humans. And that's where she met Serena, who is a human, who is also an orphan. And so they've bonded because Misery essentially grew up with the humans from the time that she was 8 until she was an adult. And even as an adult, she kind of like briefly dabbled at being back with the vampires. But for whatever reason, even though this alliance keeps the peace, the vampires still don't really fuck with the humans like that. And they definitely don't seem to fuck with Misery, who was like the only reason that this alliance was strengthened in the first place, and that, you know, there wasn't any kind of war, because she was the literal collateral. And if anything had happened, she would have been summarily executed without like a second thought. And so she has been chilling, living in the human world, keeping her head down, minding her business, until this new situation pops up where her father agrees to marry her off to this man, Lo. And she is willing to go through with this because, like I said, she thinks that her friend Serena has something to do with the werewolves, and her friend Serena has gone missing. And so as we are getting through this, I'm at 36%. We're seeing her trying to go. We've already had the wedding. The wedding happens in the prologue, and there's like a little bit of like back and forth in terms of like we flash back a couple of weeks to before things and like set them things up. But right now we are firmly post-wedding. She is living with the werewolves, and she is trying to get used to her new surroundings, as well as figure out a way to see what's happening with Serena. Is she in the werewolf territory? What is going on with her? Is she alive? Is she not alive? And I'm having a wonderful time. I'm having a good time. I'm sorry. I just am. Now, do I think this is like a good romance? I don't know. Like I said, it's single perspective. And to be fair, Misery just does not give two fucks about this man. 36% in, like it's definitely a slow burn. It's a slow burn. It does remind me a little bit of All Roads Lead Here, which not All Roads Lead Here. I didn't read that. The fuck? It's reminding me of The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which is also kind of like a forced proximity, not really an arranged marriage, but a marriage of convenience. And so it does remind me a little bit of that. But even there in The Wall of Winnipeg, I could see romantic overtures being made. And so far, they're not being made here. Now, the first 36%, like this, which is a lot of the book, I will grant to it. I'm willing to give it that. A lot of people probably aren't. I am okay with it because I think that where I'm at now, at the start of chapter 11, things are getting to a point where Misery had kind of been siloed off, but now she is being brought into the fold a little bit more. We're kind of understanding the werewolf politic and dynamic about what's happening in their territory. And so that kind of situation is opening up a little bit. And so I think that going forward, for the rest of the book, the romance is going to be easily intertwined. Now, the book also does do this thing where we don't really get what's this man's name? Lo. We don't get his perspective necessarily, but there's like a snippet at the start of each chapter that I feel like is his perspective. And so we kind of understand his thought process a little bit. And it's definitely like that stereotypical werewolf, like smell, intricate mating bond situation that is probably going to be like what ultimately brings these two people together. But like I said, already we're kind of seeing their facades crack around each other a little bit. We are seeing them having civil conversations, and I am interested to see where this goes for them. Like I said, I'm having a delightful time. Like at this point, I'm an Ali Hazelwood convert. Do I think this is as good as Check and Mate? I don't think so. I don't think this is going to be another 5-star from Ali Hazelwood, but like I'm completely down with whatever she publishes. Like I've already read everything. I'm fully up to date. I think it just got announced that she has another book coming out next summer or the summer in 2025, some point. Like her next project has been announced or something, and I'm probably gonna look into reading it. Like I just have a good time. I'm having a good time. She has one bad book and a couple of bad novellas, but outside of that, I am seeing, and I think the novellas were written around the same time as Love Hypothesis, so like I'm willing to allow it to be bad. But I'm just like having a good time. Like I think she is for the girls that want a good time. Now, I don't know what to tell you. Like maybe by the end of this, it won't be super good and won't be bad, but I will say that when she announced Bride, and there also is some there's some STEM moments happening here, like what's her name, Misery, which I think is a horrible name. She has a twin brother named Owen, who was but she's Misery. I hate that for her. Anyway, Misery is like a computer hacker. So she's like, there's still like some, women in technology or whatever still happening here. And I love that for them. But I do think that when she announced Bride, she was talking about how like she has been like wanting to dabble in this paranormal moment. And so I am hoping that like she kind of sticks to it. I also want her to keep writing YA. I think she did a wonderful job of like toning it down. And even here I feel like she's doing a really good job where obviously she saves her sex scenes for like 70% and then like 90% and then the book is over. So we're not in her like usual sex scene territory. But I think just coming off of Do Your Worst, which I read, where the couple in that one kind of hooked up a little bit early and then they hooked up again. And the smut was good. Like it was good smut. Like I am happy with like this more slow burn-y kind of approach that feels a little bit authentic. And it is like a very similar dynamic, but I don't think that Bride we do not have a short character. I mean, she's shorter than the werewolf who was like abnormally tall, but there's a scene where like her heels make her like 6 foot. And so I feel like she might be like 5'5", like at the shortest, maybe. Like the heels weren't described as being like super whatever. So she could be like 5'10", maybe even. She's not like a fucking pixie at like 3'2". So I do think that we're changing that up a little bit, but obviously it's like these people who don't get off on like the right foot or whatever, but it doesn't feel the same as the other ones, I think. But I also feel like all of her books feel different enough, and people who say it's like she's writing the same book are a little bit brain dead. Like, I'm sorry, like reading comprehension is out the window. But it's not like a totally new perspective where it's like, oh, now it's, friends to lovers or whatever. It's still very much like these are people who probably would not have gotten along and now they're going to be, together or whatever, but that's fine. I feel like she's doing a good job keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting. And like I said, I'm a convert, so like take it with a grain of salt if you have to. It has been several weeks since I touched this book. It is what it is. I got sidetracked with Patreon videos, essentially. I just was doing some Bookoply rolling and it got away from me. But today I said I'm gonna get back to Bride because the month is almost over and the books that I have to read are pretty chunky. And so I want to finish this book before the month is over. So I did some errands and I had Siri read some more of this book to me. And when I started, I was at like 30 something percent, I think 36. And now I'm at like 72-ish. Maybe just 70 is it's a little blurry. Here's the thing. Since I took a hiatus from this book, I've seen some other reviews. I've seen some people commenting, and I don't know. Like, did I ever really think that I was going to sit here and be part of the Ali Hazelwood defense squad? The answer to that question is no. When I was sitting in my car, like a little over a year ago, dragging the Love Hypothesis, I never thought that I would be sitting in my bedroom a year later with a 5-star read from her. And this one is not a 5-star. Let me get that out of the way right now. So I'm still enjoying this. I'm still enjoying the way that the book has a plot. I think that's really what it works out for me. I think some of my favorite more like romantic comedy movie angles, like they have a very distinct plot that isn't necessarily directly tied to two characters getting together. And I think that what is working so well here is that there's an external plot that is pushing our characters to both work together and then see each other in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise. And so while I don't think this is like the swooniest romance under the sun, I do appreciate the way that they are coming together in a way that feels organic, even though they were pushed together into this like marriage of convenience. I also feel like I have to because I recently read Swordcatcher and I was not impressed with the world building. I don't think that Ali Hazelwood's world building is amazing either, but I will also fully admit that when you're writing a paranormal moment, when you're writing kind of an urban fantasy moment, an urban fantasy in the traditional sense, not in the Sarah J. Maas secondary world, where foolishness. We can drag that. But in the like Cassandra Clare like the long vein, like your Sookie Stackhouse novels, where it's our world, but vampires are real. Our world, but I don't want to say witches are real because I'm not trying to get into the witch discourse with the girlies. Not a part of that, but like in the mythological story fictional version of witches, like that witch real. I'm okay with the world building being like a little lackluster. So the world building here isn't that great. But what I do appreciate about the world building here is I like that the species operate differently depending on like where they are. So in America, they seem to have like these. I say America, the states have the same names. What I do want from Allie Hazelwood actually is for her to write a book in fucking Europe. Okay, like this is a whole Italian woman. I think she's gone to like universities in America, and she might have even taught in America and like lived in America. Love that for her. But I really want to see her take on Europe. Okay, like I need her to like go to Europe and write a book set in Europe. But I think that the worst part of the book is the America that isn't necessarily the United States anymore. The country is like the same landmass, same names, but they've been carved differently. I think that's like the most confusing part. But the human vampire werewolf relationships in America are not the same as vampire human werewolf relationships in Switzerland, for example, because I think Lowe lived in Switzerland for like a hot second, or like he lived in Sweden. He lived in Europe for a hot second. They told us where. I'm just blanking. And I do like that, depending on where you are in the world, like your relationship with the different species might be a little bit different. I think that makes sense just based on, the history of the area you're in. And it's not like, oh, the entire world just treats everybody the same. I think that it was a nice little touch. I think that the sort of like hierarchy structure within the werewolf clan that we're following versus the like vampires and how they structure their society, I do think that, thought was given, but it's also very much like not the point of the book necessarily. I think that this could have been it could have been a traditional, just like contemporary romance, because there is this sort of like dark. When I say dark romance, I mean this in like the lightest possible terms. Like this could have been in a different world, just like a gang romance. And I want to say that I just appreciate that this isn't that necessarily. Like I think if Sophie Lark had written this book, it would very much just be like another mafia moment. And I think that instead, I think that what Allie Hazelwood did was take kind of like inspiration from a mafia plot line and just put it in this paranormal world. And for me, it's working because again, like I'm appreciating the plot elements. I'm appreciating that we are trying to find homegirl. There's a sort of a mystery surrounding Lowe's sister that they're working through. And I just appreciate all of that in the way that those two storylines, while they started off separately, at where I'm at now, they have started to come together and we're getting some momentum and we're getting some development. And so it makes me personally very happy. And it also makes me just like, I want to say side eye because, everyone is entitled to an opinion, even if I don't agree with it. But it is making me just like, I don't know what the girls that I'm seeing, they're not liking this book. I don't understand it because to me, again, not a 5-star, not a new favorite, but it's definitely good. It's definitely entertaining. It's definitely compelling. It's definitely an enjoyable read. It is what it is. Like, I'm sorry. Like, now, am I judging Allie Hazelwood like on a curve, like against herself? Maybe. Am I the world's like most? I don't want to say devout. Devout is not the word I'm looking for, but like voracious romance reader? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not the world's most voracious romance reader. But I do think that like in terms of a single perspective romance is doing really well. It's also, I think, the one romance where we're finally getting Allie Hazelwood taking baby steps toward giving us the perspective of the hero. And so I'm excited for what that means because like right now we're getting like these little snippets at the beginning of a chapter. And I feel like that's just, again, like a baby step to giving us full-length chapters from her hero's point of view. And while I do think that that our good sis Misery is a little bit, she's been drinking the dumb bitch juice. That is just par for the course in a Allie Hazelwood romance, first of all. But secondly, at least in the romance that I have brought myself to read over the past few years, dumb bitch juice is a very popular beverage in the genre. And so while I do think that some of the communication between her and Lo is giving ma'am you're oblivious, I also feel like that 99% of the time I'm reading a romance novel because at some point these authors just like cannot have characters talk to each other, or not even like talk to each other, but address the thing that is very clearly the elephant in the room for exclusively plot related purposes. So I, she's not the stupidest protagonist that I've had to read. I'm not suffering in her chapters, but sometimes it's just like, you really were a sheltered person. You were truly a sheltered individual. Like, it is very much showing that you were, raised in isolation with one person. So there's that. You take that as, what you will, but I'm having a good time. Like I said, I have about 30% of this book left. So my goal for now is to get this video up for the patrons a little bit early, and then for you, the viewing public, by Halloween. So I have 8 days to read 30%. It feels very much doable. So I'm going to go and I will check in with my final thoughts once I have finished Bride. But for now, as long as we stick... I will say this. The smut is back. I say back because the last book by Allie Hazelwood that I read was Check and Mate, which is out in November. So by the time the viewing public is seeing this, I think it's like 2 weeks for that book. I think it's like November 11th, but don't hold me to it. That book, obviously, it's YA, didn't really have smut. So, and I think it was better for it. So for the smut here is, it's fine, but now I'm actually going to go and I will actually check in once I have finished the book. So first things first, I have to say shout out to the patrons. Without them, I probably would not have finished Bride today. But I did. I finished it. And here's the thing. The book, I stand by, it's not bad. I would be willing to say that continuously. It's not a bad book. I enjoyed the book. I had a good time with the book. I am not upset that I read the book. The ending of the book, though, I feel like this is kind of where things sort of always go awry for Allie and me. And not even just Allie, but a lot of romance authors, for me personally. Sticking the landing, not the easiest thing to do. This kind of reminded me, or brought me back to Love on the Brain, which had a completely bonkers third act. And while this one I felt was closely rooted to the two storylines that we had been following with the missing person and the parentage of a certain character and them converging, at the same time, it was a little... I won't say unserious, because I do think that the groundwork for everything was laid. So it's not a situation where everything came out of like nowhere. But it was a situation where I just was not expecting. We got to a point in the story where it was just like 80%, and it was a rapid fire events were occurring that just were, again, not unserious because the foundation was there, but it was odd. It just felt, so much of the book was evenly paced, was, a slow build. And then the third act was not even the third act, like the last 20% was just like bang, 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 bang. All these events, all these revelations, all of these things occurring. And it was just a lot. It was also this thing where I wouldn't say it was like a third act breakup necessarily, but it was a shift. And I think this is sort of where Allie Hazelwood gets into trouble with some of her adult romances, is that to me it just gives whiplash when 1 minute you're getting nodded and the next minute you're breaking up and the next minute maybe you're being kidnapped. Like, it was just a lot. And I think that if we hadn't had these like random sex scenes just dotted throughout the book, like maybe we could have just excluded the breakup altogether, particularly because, like, again, like, then our heroine is like kidnapped, she's in a new situation, the climax is about to occur, but it's also like well, you're broken up, but like you're not really broken up because you're still in this arranged marriage for political purposes. Like it's just that part of it was a little bit unserious. But overall, I did have a good time and I still enjoyed the world that we were in here. So we could continue to explore. I say explore, but we could continue to have characters in this world, in this sort of like fantasy paranormal situation that Ali Hazelwood has created, and I would read from it. I don't know if she's invested in continuing on here. Part of me wants to think that she is because all her other STEMinist books are thinly connected through various means, usually through Adam and Olive, unfortunately. But because she has one world that's like our world, um, I think it would be fun if she continued to play with these species and their various couplings. Particularly just because I kind of want to follow. Like, actually, there are two characters, and actually, those characters I think could get together. I don't think they didn't really interact in this book, but like theoretically, it's possible. Um, they're like similar age. It wouldn't be weird, I don't think. So I would like to read that book. I'm not gonna say who because I feel like that would be kind of a spoiler, and even saying that it's a spoiler would be kind of a spoiler. So this is not like a new. It's not another 5 star. Check and mate. Still alone on that hill, but I did have a good time, and I would probably. It's another 3 star. I don't think it's as good as Love Theoretically. I enjoyed Love Theoretically a lot. I don't know if I. This is complicated, right? Because like ranking the books it gets into like this weird thing. But I think that if you really enjoyed the bonkers ending of Love on the Brain, then you'll probably enjoy this ending more than I did. Um, and if you like an actual plot to the romance that isn't just like these two characters forced to be around each other, but that is part of the story. But there are other things happening in this world. I think that this could be the romance for you. I don't know how many pages this is because it's Allie. I'm sure it's at least like 400 something. If you don't like 400 plus page romances, it's probably not for you. I think at this point in the Allie Hazelwood experience, you kind of know if you're willing to try. Be that you liked one of the previous books or you haven't liked one of the previous books. I think if you're willing to continue to give Ali Hazelwood a try. So for me, I had a pleasant enough time. And even though technically it's a regression because, Check and Mate was 5 stars. And I think I gave Love Theoretically 4 stars. Another like 3.5 book is technically a regression. But I'm still having fun. Like, I at no point in this book did I really hate it, even at the bonkers ending, which I also thought that Love on the Brain had a bonkers ending. I also thought was completely bonkers. I still had a good time. Like, I think that she still is writing entertaining books that I personally enjoy reading. And so I'm going to continue to read them. I just am. I don't know if I'm going to like, if the next project is a novella, I don't know if I would rush out to read that because the novellas were more hit or miss than the novels. Like 2 of those novellas were just horrible and only one of them was good. Whereas the novels, only I think The Love Hypothesis is just bad and illogical. So for me, Ali Hazelwood continues to be an author that I will continue to check out. So thank you to Berkeley for sending me an early copy of this book. This book comes out in February, which I think is a bonkers release date for this book. I mean, I understand that not every paranormally book can come out in October, particularly a person like Allie Hazelwood, who this year gave us Love Theoretically and Check and Mate. So I don't know if next year she also is planning on giving us like an adult and a YA. The YA is definitely going to be an autobuy. Autobuy, no, but it's definitely going to be high on the things that I want to read because Check and Mate is still her best book. So I don't know if like that's another situation where she's going to have like another YA next fall. And so Berkeley didn't want to have 2 releases. Penguin was like, no, we're not going to put out 2 books from you in like the same month. Okay. But I do think this is like a bonkers release date. So sadly, you can't read this book until February. But when February does roll around, still don't read it, find some Black people. But then in March for Women's History, pick up this book because I had a good time and I think you'll have a good time too. So I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. And until next time.